What's up? I feel like this has been the longest week in the world, and I can't believe it's only been a week since I last streamed. I just, man, time flies when you're having fun, so I guess I haven't been having fun. uh, I've had some fun. It has been also bad. I feel like the short weeks, like since we had Labor Day this past Monday, the short weeks always end up being the longest weeks in the world. And my word, I'm tired. Let's see. Ooh, the music is louder than I expected. 1 second, let me lower that. Whoa. It's so trancy. I don't know this one. How are you all doing? How's the air in Seattle? The air is not ideal, but it's getting better. Earlier this week, I was definitely like, oh, my voice is raspy. But it's okay today. It's not so bad. Yeah, weekend sounds great. So I'm using my typical daily driver, the Korean board, not the board that I built last week, because the enter key stopped working randomly today, just like a couple hours ago, and I have no idea what's going on there. But I'll figure it out. It's probably something silly. Yeah, it was a bummer. It was working just fine and then suddenly wasn't, but I'm sure it's something silly. I might have to do some soldering, which I don't want to do, and also because I am mid-move, soldering stuff is packed anyway, so I'll just have to deal with it for a little while. What can you do? From Argentina, from SF, wow, so many places. Do any of you have fun weekend plans or anything? Hello, welcome. This one's such a I'm gonna skip this song. I'm not feeling it. Oh, this is better. Okay. Can you hear it? Let me know. Do you have recommendations for where to buy some dank desk mats? International shipping. International shipping is hard. It's hard to say. If ever I do recommend desk mats, it's typically with the Key Company. The Key Company has some really cool ones, but I don't know what their international shipping is like. And here I'll paste a link. Another great place is, you know what? Dixie Mech has desk mats, and I think that they have proxies internationally. Let me actually check really quick. I'm not sure. Hello, welcome. Let's see. I can't tell if they have proxies for all of these, but Dixie Mech does have some stuff. If you go to dixiemech.store. From Poland, wow. Welcome. Hamburg, Germany? Y'all from all over the place. That's so fun. I hope you're all staying safe, happy, and healthy. I know it can be difficult at times. From Iran, wow. That's so cool. Have any of you been coding on anything cool lately? Seattle! How's it only Thursday? I know, right? I'm so tired. Just, oh my gosh. I'm so tired. It's just one of those times. And plus, last night, it was my own mistake. I got caught up working on a code pen that I put together, and it was a fun little thing. I could show it later, but because I was just getting so into it, I just didn't notice the time. And then suddenly it was like 2 a.m. and my meetings this morning started at 7:30. And whew, today is a struggle. I'm new here, but I saw a keyboard on my Twitter, and now you want a nice one too? You've come to the right place. From Denver. Oh, are you in the part of Denver that's snowing or on fire? I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. There's a few of my teammates are in Portland and in Denver, and it's so tragic. There's so many campsites and stuff that are being burned down. It's such a shame. The snowing part. Okay, well, that's better. Whoa, baby sleeping through the night is huge. Congrats, and I hope it lasts. Good luck. That is a lot of work. Oh, you're just from down the road in PDX. Oh, I hope you're staying safe too. Looking forward to that in December. Yeah. I don't have children. I know I will someday. But that part is really, that's something I've been thinking about where I'm just like, man, I'm not going to get to sleep for a long time eventually when I do have them. That's going to be a journey. I'm sure it's worth it. And I think kids are cute and stuff, but man, I'm so tired now that I can't imagine being more tired right now. I've been looking at a bunch of Next and Node stuff lately, Next.js and Node stuff, because from Los Angeles, whoa, Hollywood. There's this library called Next on Nullify, and it's cool because it allows you to do the SSR stuff in Next.js on Nullify. And basically because I work at Nullify, here I'll put a link in there. Oh, I'm glad you saw it, that video. But anyway, we have this library and we were using it internally, and we ended up supporting the original maintainer on GitHub sponsors, and we absorbed the package so that way we can support it more internally. And I've just been doing a deep dive in there, and it's such a funky ecosystem to be a part of, because no shade or anything, but Next.js there are some features where they're locking you into Vercel, as much as the team says they're not, and we are trying to fight against that and show that you can host it anywhere, not just on Nullify, but all over the place. And so we want to support some of that. Hi from Cáceres. Wait, hello, I used to live there. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. But yeah, anyway, that's what a lot of what I've been working on. Quickly realized that all the free time you did have, and then suddenly have the same feeling when number 2 shows up. I know. Having a child is not so bad. We have a 1.5-year-old. It depends. I'm sure. Humans are crazy. Yeah, I lived in Spain. I lived in Cáceres. I was studying Spanish there. I used Nullify CMS for the first time recently. It blew my mind. Nice! Oh, I'm glad. That one, what's cool about that one is it's incredibly community run. Like, we have some people internally who occasionally contribute to it, but it's very much just like a community resource that is supported and everything. And I think it's really cool because of that, because we might have started it, but it's the community that's making it better. I think that's really neat. That's kind of what we're hoping for with this Next on Nullify package, because I think it'll be really useful for people, but right now we're very much trying to figure out how to make it fit for everyone, and right now it works on a lot of things. It just doesn't work for everything. And so we've been trying to, handle issues, look at pull requests and stuff, and I need to kind of get more familiar with the code base so I can contribute a bit more. Hello, Cassidoo. Do I like Korean food? Heck yeah, I do. My husband's Korean, so I ought to. But yeah, I actually had Korean barbecue last week, and it was amazing. But I really like naengmyeon. Naengmyeon is one of my favorite things. It's so good. My dev job has me working with WordPress mostly, but I want to move into a new role that is more TypeScript and React focused. Any advice and thoughts? I'd just start building things. And even if you want to do the transition more slowly, I guess, or more gradually, if you did headless WordPress with React and TypeScript, you could do some really cool work with that. And then as you transition, you can just move out of that ecosystem if you want to. I did my Nullify CMS and Gatsby POC lately, and it caused me to change a job because I liked it so much. That's great. I'm glad to hear that. Hello. PS Pansar. I don't know how to pronounce your username, but whenever I see it, I think it's Pansear, like the Pokemon. So I was just like, oh, wait a minute, that's not it. Do I know the solidity language? No. What is that? Solidity programming. I'm looking it up. For writing smart contracts. Oh, it's a blockchain thing. Interesting. I'm iffy on blockchain. I'm trying to learn more about it, but I haven't done much of it myself. Hello, welcome. Just hanging out here. What would you suggest to go through to use to understand dependency injection? I don't have any resources that come to mind right away. There's some good ones on Egghead, I think. Why does Next on Nullify not use TypeScript? Because the person who made it doesn't use TypeScript. I think folks would be open to it if it provided enough value. Like, drink the blockchain Kool-Aid. I know, I kind of have a little bit. I'm trying to not go, I don't want to be a Bitcoin bro, but man, blockchain is pretty cool. I don't fully understand it, but whenever I do understand more of it, I'm just like, this is the future. So we'll see what actually happens in the future. I haven't done any blockchain and I'm not sure if I want to. Yeah, no, that's kind of how I feel. Again, sometimes I'm just like, this is the coolest thing, and other times I'm just like, do I want this? I don't know. I have so many DMs from work. Do I need to look at them? Nah. I am streaming. Yeah, no, I've definitely looked at different things because what's interesting to me is the things that have branched off of Ethereum and have become their own things, or who have learned from like the Ethereum network collapse that happened at some point that I don't fully understand the details of. There's a lot of technologies out there where it's very brain melty, and so as soon as I do learn it, I'm just like, this is the coolest thing, but then I learn more and then it melts me again. So we'll see how long that lasts. How does collaborating with the Nullify social media team work? Fun fact, we don't have a social media team. We have a rotation of who gets to run the Twitter. Not even gets to, like, some people like it, some people eh. But anyway, we have a rotation of who runs the Twitter on every given day. I'm actually going to be doing the tweets for tomorrow. Normally I do Tuesdays, but because it was a weird week, just things happened. But anyway, I don't know what you mean by collaborating with the Nullify social media team, but there isn't one and it's us. University of Utah is following. Wow. Thanks, school. I have 3 virtual interviews back to back for 3 hours. Ooh, bring water. I know it's silly, but seriously, just bring water and keep drinking it, because that is a lot of talking back to back. And also keep reminding yourself to sit up straight and talk a lot. Sure. Next.js feels more and more proprietary tech. While I love the framework, this aspect makes me feel a little sus. Yeah, same. And that's why, like, I'm excited about Next on Nullify, because I think it's a step in a good direction, and that's why I was like, we need to go all in on this framework, or on this package to support the framework, because I think it is a cool framework. But again, I don't want to bash people or places or things, but it is becoming very, very salesy and proprietary rather than open sourcey and community oriented. And so it's one of those things where I'm cautiously optimistic about it in general. I feel I should share this stupid mistake of mine publicly. I added the public folder of my React app under git ignore. Oh no! What a shame, I'm sorry. When does Nullify come out with its own that only works really well with your hosting? We very specifically don't want to do that. I actually asked about that once. I was just like, is this something that like has ever been considered? And we want to be a framework agnostic first platform. There are definitely some frameworks that work better on us just because people have built things more toward us, but we are agnostic first. And so that's the Nullify guarantee. Can you review my resume? I have a resume review thing with my Patreon. I would say yes right away, but I get this request all the time, and I can't scale myself unless I have something like that. I'm sorry. The way I feel about blockchain is how I feel about quantum computing. Super interesting, but a rabbit hole not ready to go down. Very fair. Do you think that will change eventually, like many frameworks that started at a company? I'm not sure. What was turning salesy? Next.js. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like people are figuring out how to monetize open source, and if you start a company that supports open source, I think that's a good route. If you start a company based on adoption of open source, that's where you start to see things take over, where your business is dependent on this open source thing, and so you keep supporting the open source thing, but then you're like, well, if my business is the one putting it together, then my business should be benefiting the most from it, and you have to balance a lot of that. Oop, don't you know? I love that username a ton. Do you think that'll change? I don't know. I hope the community keeps taking over. I really do. I really do. But TBD. Hello, welcome. But for real, PHP hosting when? I'll put in a good word for you. Although I guess you could do something interesting with like WebAssembly to make something happen. But, you know, I'm not going to solve this problem. Forget PHP. Spring hosting when? No. Although again, WebAssembly. Theoretically, something could happen there. Oh, darn, I just got a DM at work. Oh, dang. Well, I have to write a blog post and get it ready to be published right away. Oh, darn it. I'll do that later. You have nightmares with Spring? Yeah, I've used it very, very little. Do I have any book recommendations? What genre do you want? I like books. There's one book that someone recommended to me yesterday or the day before called The Chain, and it sounds very intense, but I'm excited to read it. I put it on my list. Where like the premise is someone gets a phone call saying like, hey, your daughter's been kidnapped. You'll get your daughter back if you kidnap another kid. And all of a sudden that means this person is a part of the chain. The only way to get kids back is to kidnap another kid. And it sounds really intense and dystopian and stuff. And I love that genre, but also with the pandemic, it's been very hard to read that genre because it just, I don't know, affects me more deeply. But I'm excited to potentially read that. I also recently got, oh, what is it called? It's by Blake Crouch. Dark Matter. I just got that one. I haven't read it yet, but that's the next one on my queue. And I'm still in the middle of this one book that again is dystopian, but I can't read it as quickly as I normally would because this world is hard. But it's called Vox, and it's really interesting. Children of Time is an amazing book about spiders that evolved to be smart. Oh, interesting. The ones about kids getting kidnapped, it's called The Chain. The Chain. For an aspiring beginner developer, what path would you recommend to get into the industry? kind of depends on your preference, because if you don't like something, then you will not do well in it over time. The Chain, it's quite interesting and horrific, but interesting. Oh, you read it? Yeah, it was recommended to me recently, and so I'm curious, but I haven't read it myself yet. But yeah, for getting into the industry, it depends on you. If you want to do web dev, okay. If you want to do web dev, then start. I personally think you should start at the very beginning and do HTML, do CSS, then do vanilla JavaScript. Understand those, then pick up a framework or a library like Vue or React or something. Hey, J Cubed. And then from there, once you are more comfortable with the basics and you can get more involved with something again like Vue or React or even Angular, anything like that, then you can get more detailed in. Once you know the framework, then you can build more robust applications. Then you want to add things like user authentication and databases and interesting ways of querying data and stuff. If you want to look for a place to go to learn all of this, there's plenty of boot camps out there. There's so many online tutorials out there. But yeah. As you said, it's really not okay to read in this period for sanity reasons. Yeah, exactly. Like, I like dystopian books a ton, but it is rough. Insert the question about you getting into coding that you know I'm going to ask here. Haha, Jonesy, no. I seem a little low on energy, do I? That's because I've had about 4 hours of sleep. I'm killing it. Start with C? No. Please don't. Who's your favorite dev streamer? I really like Jason Langsdorff. Full disclosure, he's my coworker, but he's a really cool streamer. Yeah, I think he's great. Have I read Atomic Habits? I haven't. I'm looking that up. Oh, I've seen this book. I admit, I'm really bad at reading nonfiction books. Like, I'll start reading them and then I'm kind of like, okay, I get it. I much prefer stories that I can get into. But anyway, it looks good. And I might start it one day, but there's no guarantee I'll actually finish it. Did you ever watch Black Mirror? I cannot handle Black Mirror. I can't. And I know that the first episode is not a good indicator of the rest of the show, but just heck no. I can't do it. I've watched like I've watched other dystopian like shows and stuff, and I love thrillers, I love that stuff, but man, I've been sticking to wholesome shows in this pandemic for sure. Yeah, we live Black Mirror. It really feels like that. Did you do a computer science degree? Yes, I did. I learned coding before my comp sci degree, but then I got the degree. How important is it to learn a CSS preprocessor? I've always used just CSS and styled components. That's totally fine. Honestly, I personally only use preprocessors for nesting, really. Like, I'll use them for variables and I'll use like mixins and stuff, but really it's the nesting that I really like about preprocessors. It's just CSS with a few some added sugar on top. Oh, hey Jimena. Welcome back. Did I watch the Piggy episode? I did. And then I stopped. I've seen too many movies to a point where I can predict nonfiction books, so yes, I'm with you on that one. I prefer fiction with a captivating storyline. Yeah. I'm very excited for some of the like I'm excited for Dune to come out and all kinds of just cool stories and movies and stuff, but because of this just world we're in right now, it feels like the world is always ending. And man, it just messes with my head. Whenever I start to watch something really intense, I just dream about it and I think about it and it affects me. Meanwhile, I just finished Gilmore Girls and that was a delight. Nice and wholesome, friendly, funny. Hey Chris, hello! Have I gotten a Fall Guys crown yet? No. Don't remind me. The Black Mirror episode about the joke candidate winning an election is too real. Again, I don't think I can handle Black Mirror. It hurts. But yes, Gilmore Girls was amazing. I had never seen it before, so it was my first time watching it all the way through, and I'm like, man, I have been missing out. It was such a good show. I really enjoyed it. We're on season 1 of Gilmore Girls for the first time ever. It's so great. And I'll be curious how you think about certain characters towards the end, because there is a particular person who I just ended up not liking a lot, and so I'll be curious to see what you think. I feel the way about Gilmore Girls that you feel about Black Mirror. Stopped at the 3rd episode. Everybody has their preferences. Save it for the podcast. Hey. Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is by the same creator. Yes. Oh, I love Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. It's so good. Yes, I finished A Year in the Life last night. That was the thing that I watched. I finished season 7 2 or 3 nights ago. Oh. Heck, am I still on? Sorry, all my screens turned off for a second, but it's just because I've been talking and not moving my mouse. Was it Rory? I don't know. But yeah, Mrs. Maisel is great. It's so good. I've been wanting to see Upload. Fleabag has gotten so many awards. I really like, what's her name? Phoebe Waller-Bridge? She's cool. What I really liked on Amazon was Man in High Castle. That one was intense. That one was really good. It ended up going in a different direction than I expected, which is also intriguing. So I'll be curious to see where that goes. Fleabag is great, yeah. Have I seen Parks and Rec? Heck yeah. I have seen Parks and Rec a lot. That's one of those like default shows where if I don't want to pay attention, but I want something going on in the background, Parks and Rec is one of my go-tos. Wasn't that the one with the alternate Nazi timeline? Yeah, so with Man in High Castle, it's what if the other side won World War II and the nuts world that became of that. Did not expect Fleabag to be that good. Boy, with no expectations, I was really impressed, yeah. The Office? Yeah, I like The Office. I feel like the more I've watched The Office, the more I've been like, The Office is fine. I think it has some brilliant comedic moments in it. Absolutely brilliant. But I appreciate the writing more on shows like Parks and Rec, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, 30 Rock, Schitt's Creek. Those are great ones. As an alternative to... Oh, Jonesy, no! Do you think the shift in tech companies moving towards having more remote positions will ultimately be a good or bad thing for programmers? I mean, depends on what you define as good or bad. I personally think it's great because I love working remotely. And again, working remotely in a pandemic is very different from working remotely in general. Like, what I love about working remotely is because I work all day, I'm productive, and then at the end of the day, I get to go hang out with friends and stuff, and I'm not exhausted from talking and being around people all day. But because I'm in a pandemic, and I'm always inside, it hits a little different. But I think a move towards remote work is a move towards the future. People will want to live where they want to live, and a workplace should accommodate for that. And I know that there's a lot of interesting considerations with that, and there's also figuring out, I think there needs to be an overhaul of childcare in the world, especially in the US. I think there needs to be an overhaul of just tools for remote working. I think there's a lot of great tools, but there could always be better ones. There's lots of things. City infrastructure. So many things have to change for it to be a truly new world. But the world, I keep saying the world in general, but governments, for example, have accelerated their timelines so tremendously because of this move to remote. I was speaking with someone who, he used to be the CIO of Palo Alto, like the city in Silicon Valley. And he was saying some of the changes that they had to implement took years to get done. And because of this whole pandemic thing, they were able to just straight up accelerate timelines and be able to have community meetings online and be able to have city council meetings online and able to do so many things and upgrade their tools. And so I think that in terms of technological advancement, it's a very good thing. I think for programmers, we can work anywhere, and it's proving to companies that we can. But yeah, I don't want to go too much on a rant in that regard. I think the world is changing for the better, but it's slow changing. We're having a lot of growing pains as the world adopts more technologies that a lot of tech people have had for a long time. Going through this at the moment. I really hate my job, but I'm stuck in a rural area. Yeah. There's so many remote roles that are popping up, and companies like Shopify, for example. I've talked to them in the past where they're just like, oh, well, we're kind of Canada first, or you have to go into one of our US hubs. But now they've announced that they're remote first, and you could be working from anywhere, and they're just one of many companies that have been doing that. They've been slacking on work from home stuff. Ha ha ha. I've read that salaries will become localized over time and a lot of people will be moving out of the big tech hubs. I mean, it makes sense. I have mixed feelings on salary stuff because it's hard to say. If a company can afford you in the Bay Area, why can't they afford you in Mississippi? You know, but it's also, to be fair to everybody, there's a whole thing there that I don't know the solution, but do you have any tips for doing good code reviews? Make sure you be transparent about being nitpicky. I tend to do one big once over of everything, and then if there's glaring things, that's where I make a ton of comments. But if the code overall is good, be just like, okay, overall A+, but here's some very nitpicky things to work out, and just be just verbose enough where people can know exactly what to fix, but not so long-winded that people don't want to do the fixes that you suggest. Canada-versed, eh? Yeah. Could I tell me about your experience with the OLKB keyboard? That's the plank. I like it. I'm definitely slower typing on it. I like to use it on days where I'm not coding, mostly because I'm slow. If I use the plank, I typically do it on like an email heavy day or something. What was my journey into tech? I have an AMA that will answer that for you, so that way I don't have to. And that is exactly why I built that AMA, to answer frequently asked questions. Will the fires have an impact on SF as a hub? I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. Quora went fully remote too. Wow. I think one of the big issues with remote work from anywhere is that the company also needs to make sure that they're operating in a country following all of the relevant tax laws. Yes, tax laws and employment laws. Yeah, moving to Portugal. Yeah, the laws are rough, and that's shut up, Jonesy. That's one of the things that we're dealing with now, because there's a couple people that we've interviewed at Nullify that we really like, but because of tax laws and employment laws and stuff, we have to figure out how to be able to support them, and it's not that easy. And so we have to figure out, okay, do we just not want to hire them? Do we want to hire them as a contractor? There's lots of ups and downs and stuff. And again, I don't know the answers, and luckily I don't have to make the decisions. I just give thumbs up to people after interviewing, or thumbs down. But anyway, laws are hard. What are borders anyway? Am I right? I'd love to move back to Puerto Rico and working remote with my current company. Being a U.S. colony should help with that. Yeah, it really should. Have we narrowed down on that position? There are a couple positions that are open on teams where I am the interviewer. I'm going to keep it moderately vague. Why doesn't she love me? I don't know who you are. Anyway, on the two positions, one of them I think we're going to be making an offer soon, and then the other one we're still actively interviewing people. Interviewing so hard because there's so many good candidates that we want to interview everybody, but we just don't have the bandwidth, and so we have to be incredibly picky. And then if things don't work out, which that has happened with a few people where we were picky and then we're just like, oh well, they didn't know what they said they knew, we can then work down the line. But literally this past weekend, myself and a couple other people, we literally just had to go through and reject people on their applications because it was 200 plus applicants for one job, and we are a very small team, and so it's very difficult. Even as a contractor, there's employment laws requiring a contractor become salaried after X months. Oh my goodness. As an interviewer, what are the top 3 things looking for outside of just technical skills? So, and you're kind of asking, is there anything specific I'm looking for in a candidate? Yeah, I'm happy to talk about this. So first of all, if you are getting stuck on a problem, and one of the things that we do with our technical screens, I've been doing all the technical screens for one of the roles, is we try to give you a ton of prep work beforehand. We're just like, okay, we were going to have you implement this and we want you to show us a code sample, yada, yada, yada. First of all, I want to see that you did prepare because we gave you prep materials so that way you could prepare. I want to see that you are willing to ask questions. There are some people where they are very, I don't want to say stubborn, but they get stuck in the weeds working on such nitpicky things that don't matter to the problem. And then they never just say, is this important? Like some of the best people who have gone through the interview process they get stuck on something and then they say, okay, is this part important, or am I doing the right thing here? Or what do you think about this part? Is this going well? Just asking something like that shows that you're collaborative. And when people don't do that, that's when you're just like, okay, come on, ask me. I want to help you. Help me help you. Because you don't want to just jump in and interrupt them, especially if they have a good thought going, or a thought going. Thank you so much for your subscription. I'm the Borgo Ross. Thank you so much. But anyway, also, if you make code decisions that I question, like I have seen some funky code decisions recently. If I ask you about it, don't be like, it is my way or the highway. There are some people where they're just like, well, obviously this is the best way to do it, blah, blah, blah. Say, well, this is why I did it. Explain why you did it, but don't necessarily be like, this is the best way to do it. Be willing to explain why and be open to change. Those are the kinds of things I'm looking for, because a lot of people who actually get to the technical round, chances are they have the technical skills. So I'm looking for, again, continuing those technical skills, making sure they're actually there, but also that you are willing to talk about it and are open to feedback, are open to pair programming, are open to not being a know-it-all, basically. What do you see first in the application that comes? I first look at the skills you have. And this is actually full transparency. How I order my resume is I have 2 columns where experience is on the left, and then on the right I have skills, I have education, and I have like outside of work things that I do. That's how I structure my resume. And I look for that in that order when I'm looking at someone's resume. I look at their work experience and I look at their skills. I don't want to see all of these things like utilized front-end technologies to scale a website to billions of users. Good for you, that tells me nothing. I want to see the technologies that you used and talk more specifically about things that you solved. Don't put in all this fluffy jargon that doesn't matter to me. I want to know what you've built and is it relevant to the job. I dropped by the stream for the first time and now you sent me down a custom mechanical keyboard rabbit hole. Yes. ConvertKit or MailChimp? I don't use either. For my newsletter I use Button Down. Do I know any good Topre keycaps? Good luck. The website that I used to see with them shut down, so I'm sorry. Being humble and open to feedback. Have low self-esteem helps with that. But also, speaking of that, with the low self-esteem thing, you can tell when someone has imposter syndrome and is down talking on themselves too much. And that's something that we note. Like something with a candidate recently, we were saying, this person clearly knows what they're doing, but because they were so down on themselves that we're just like, oh, well, you're better than you think. It's almost like, is our team going to be overwhelming because they think that they can't do the job? Like that's a real thing that we watch out for. And so you don't want to be so humble that you end up just insulting yourself. You're selling yourself as much as the company is trying to sell you. And I think it's good to be humble, but don't just completely self-deprecate. And also, don't bash your current employer. It's understandable if you're just like, oh yeah, currently at my job I'm doing this, but I'm not a huge fan of that. Or, I'm dealing with some problems with some coworkers. That's totally fine. But if you repeatedly bring that up, that's a red flag, because people are just like, well, if something goes wrong here, are they just going to talk smack about us too? And that's something that we've had to deal with recently too, where people, we get it, they're not having a good experience at their current job, but you don't want that to be such a prominent part where we're just like, why did you do that? Why are you talking so badly? Is this a habit? We don't know, because we don't know you very well. So, yeah. At the stage you're at right now, do you still need to send resumes if you apply for a job? Oh, me? Yeah, I send my resume still. People don't just say, hey, you have a job. You still gotta apply for jobs at any stage. Well, maybe not at any stage. I'm sure there's some very legit people out there who can just get them. But when my company went under this past March, I applied for jobs. Cover letters for or against? Always for 100%. I always read cover letters. Whenever people apply, I read every single cover letter that comes in. And if I'm narrowing down resumes and we're getting really picky because we have to, I will get rid of the people who didn't write a cover letter. I know it's not everybody likes writing them. Most people don't like writing them. Always write a cover letter. Not everybody will read them. But if your interviewers or hiring managers or anyone are anything like me, we notice them and we read every single one. And every cover letter that comes in at Nullify gets read. Applying for jobs is so exhausting. Oh, it's real. Jobs are hard. I think tech hiring is an industry that's ripe for disruption, but unfortunately all of the attempts to disrupt it have just ended up being a part of what already exists. CVs is like the metadata of you, and the cover letters like your sales pitch. Both are important. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Yeah, resumes are the high-level overview where I'm just like, okay, they got this, they got this, they got this, great. And then the cover letter, I get to see more in detail. And like, for example, there was this one person where on his resume, I was like, okay, he has some of the technologies that I'm looking for, but his job doesn't seem relevant. I don't really understand. But then at his cover letter, he said, hi, I'm interested in this and this and this. I know my title doesn't really pertain to this role, but let me tell you what I'm actually doing at work and what all this is. And he went into detail about his open source projects. He went into detail posting a bunch of links saying these are the links to projects that I think it's worth it for you to see. And he just went into all of this really great detail that we didn't get from the resume, where because we read his cover letter, we were able to say, dang, this person needs to be interviewed. They clearly know what they're doing. I heart Nullify getting my dissertation work published on the internet through it. Whoa, congrats. Dissertation stuff is tough. A lot of companies like to write things like 5 years of experience with React. In these cases, are they really weeding out candidates that don't meet those types of requirements? It depends. For us, for example, one of the roles that I'm hiring, that my team is hiring for and would be working a lot with me, we said 3 to 5 years of experience with React/Next.js. But it's not a hard requirement. It's just we want to know that you know this framework. And so we didn't necessarily dox people who, we didn't knock people who didn't have that exact number of years, but it's more a guideline to show we want you to know your stuff. If you don't have 3 to 5 years of experience, you need to show that you know enough of it, that you know the depths of it, you know like the history of it, you know the framework really well. And a lot of that does come with time, but it doesn't always come with time. There are some people that we've talked to where they only have a year on this particular framework, but because they have so much experience with other frameworks that they clearly know what they're doing. How important is a candidate's learning ability versus already having the current skills? Depends on the role. Like, for example, for the 2 roles that we're hiring, one of them, we're more open to training them and getting them up and running. And then the other one, we need an expert that can do a quick onboarding and just go without us having to handhold at all. I think learning ability is incredibly important anyway, no matter what. But depending on what the company and what the team is specifically looking for right now, for some of the roles that Nullify is hiring for in general, they need people who know their stuff. But there's a couple roles that we're hiring for where it's like, oh yeah, this is a role where we want to bring in someone who is less experienced because we want to be able to train them and go. So, depends. Disrupt it with buzzword blockchain. Boom, new job. Haha. Do you do anything to reduce bias and anonymization? Yeah, we do some of that. And the recruiters do a lot of stuff with that and have a bunch of details on that. So I admit I try to not look at names to help with that. I truly look at the skills. Hello, welcome. But yeah, we do some level of that, yes. Our candidates have been very pleasantly quite diverse for the roles that we're hiring for. How long should a cover letter be? It's kind of up to you. How much do you want, like, how much information do you want to give? Because sometimes cover letters are really short, saying, honestly, my resume speaks for itself, but I'm really excited about this role. I'm passionate about the company. Thanks. And it ends up being short. And then I read a cover letter yesterday that was 5 pages long. So it really depends on what you're wanting to convey to the company. Do you have any YouTube content? I put these videos on YouTube just so that way people can rewatch if they don't want to rewatch on Twitch. And I do have an old YouTube channel that I'm not going to share that has some stuff from like middle school and high school. Nowadays, it's easier to start your own company than to get a job. I don't know about that. Starting companies is hard work. Yeah, no, there is so here's the thing. I'm reading all I've been hearing is the job outlook for programmers is great and supply will fall short of demand. It's true. There actually is, there's more jobs than there are programmers to fill them. Unfortunately, the way it is, for better or for worse, a lot of the roles that are available are not very high visibility roles. And so companies will be just like, well, we really need a programmer for this, but they're not putting it on Twitter, they're not putting it on LinkedIn, they're just putting it on their own job site, and they hope that people find them. And so there is a job for you out there. It might just involve applying a lot. And whenever I'm job hunting, whenever I'm in that state, I apply for a lot of jobs. Like when my company had to lay off all staff this past March, I think I applied to between 10 and 30 jobs a day, depending on the day and how hectic it was. And I had calls booked every single half hour for a solid week. My voice was gone. I was talking so much. But when you apply to a lot of jobs, chances are you'll get one, because that's a numbers game. Would you look down on someone who is seemingly taking a step down due to their job title? No, not at all. If people want a job switch, then that's what they want. Starting a new job on the 28th. I love my current job, but this is a really good opportunity. Nice, that's cool. Are bootcamp grads given as much attention as college grads? Yes. At least at Nullify and a lot of the places where I've worked. We do tend to say, if you are a bootcamp grad, we don't want you to, well, it depends, because again, everyone varies. For more senior roles, we say bootcamp grads are totally fine, but you either need to have not graduated too recently, like graduated within the past year or two. You probably need more experience for the more senior roles. And you need to know more than just what your bootcamp taught you. The people I know who have graduated from boot camps and have done very successful things are ones who studied a lot outside of their boot camp, which I know it's so much work to do a boot camp. It's a lot of work, but a lot of times it's necessary to make yourself stand out. Is it a big red flag if a candidate doesn't have a lot to show on their GitHub but years of experience? No, not at all. Some of the people that we're interviewing have a large GitHub streak going, and then some of the people just don't at all. And they say, sorry, all the code was proprietary that I worked on, and that's it. In which time zone does the team usually live to work remotely? I live in Central Europe, so time zone is quite shifted. So we tend to ask that people be no later than GMT plus 2 or 3, I think. So for me, because I'm on the West Coast, all of my meetings are in the morning, which means for our teammates in London and Germany and stuff, all of their meetings tend to be in the afternoon. But really, you can be in any time zone. You just have to know meetings are at around this time, and so your schedule might have to be shifted if you end up being in a funky time zone. I work remotely and people all over the place, from Europe to US West Coast. Nice. My current company called me 2 years after I applied. Nice. Wow. See you later. Thanks for coming. Say you get an offer for a job. Do you tend to negotiate the salary, and do you have a strategy for how much you ask for? I always negotiate. And the way I approach it is I say, well, let's pretend I'm negotiating with you. The way I phrase it exactly is, okay, well, I'm super excited about the role. Thank you so much. This offer is wonderful, and I'm really excited. And I feel like I'd be doing myself a disservice if I don't negotiate a little bit. And so is there any wiggle room on salary, on benefits, on stock options, on anything that we can talk through? And that's how I approach it. And then depending on how they respond, conversation goes from there. And a lot of times people are just like, oh yeah, I can talk more. Do you have a ballpark of what you want? And I say, honestly, not really, but if we can bump it 5-10K, I would be so happy. And if you can bump it X amount, I will sign right away. And by doing that, by giving like a kind of high amount and saying I'll sign right away if you do that, then that's music to a recruiter's ears, because they're just like, oh, dang, great. If we know that they'll take the job if they get this, we'll figure this out. And there have been times where I'll say, if you give me this, I'll sign right away. Companies are just like, okay, I don't know if we can, but I'll see what I can do. And then they have to do some negotiating and business things on their end. But it's a very good tactic. And I learned a lot about negotiating and stuff from men who are very confident at negotiating. Women too, but guys are really shameless and asking for things compared to some of the women I know, and they ask for numbers that would normally make me go, what? But they get it, and so why not me? And so that's how I approach negotiating. How many of your prior jobs were from referrals and connections versus cold applying? Good question. 2 or 3 of them were from cold applying, and then the rest were referrals. And referrals don't necessarily mean you just get the job, it just means that you get an interview typically. How many pages for a resume? I still try to keep mine at 1, but at a certain point, when you have a certain amount of experience, 1 doesn't happen. What was a unique interview tactic that you experienced as a candidate and have since adopted into your own interviewing? Do you mean like as an interviewer? Let me know. Wish I had that negotiating drive. You should. It's worth it. What camera do I use? Exclamation point camera. You can see. My glasses are purple today. If it's made known that a skilled programmer was previously a sex worker, how would your company react? They wouldn't. It's a previous job. If you can code, you can code. That's what matters. How to answer the question, if you have any other job offers, if you have one. So when if someone says, so do you have any other offers or anything? I say, yeah, I have a few irons in the fire and I'm happy to talk with you about them. But I'd like to get further along in the process before I get into much more detail. And so that's what I do if it's earlier in the process. If we're at the point where a company says, okay, they're giving me an offer and they're just like, so do you have any other offers? Where do we stand? That kind of stuff. I say like, okay, yes, I do have these offers. And I admit they are offering a little bit more than you. And so if you can beat them, that would be great. But this is where I'm at. And I don't try to pit them against each other, but put it under the guise of transparency, because that's what it is. You're being transparent to get the best offer you can get. As an interviewer, the best tactic. It sounds silly, but honestly just smiling a lot, smiling and nodding. It makes interviewers or interviewees so much more at ease if you like laugh with them. I try to like tell a joke. I try to be friendly with them because interviews are so nerve-wracking already, and so if you're friendly up front, then people are much happier and a little less nervous to go through. Do you use makeup to hide bags under eyes on bad days? I throw on some cover up, yeah. Hello, welcome. Yeah, I was going to do some CSS stuff today because I had a lot of questions about that on Twitter. Have I answered all your job questions? This is fun. I'm happy to keep going. What are good questions to ask interviewers? Ooh, okay, here's my favorite question to ask interviewers. I ask them, in your company, what is the most important thing? The employees, the customers, or the product? None of those are a wrong answer. But when you're talking with multiple people at a company, this is a great question to figure things out, because if everyone answers the exact same way, then you know there's cohesive messaging. And so if everybody says customers are number 1, cool, there's cohesive messaging. Everyone knows that the company's values are for the customers number 1. And then you can also determine what to you is most important. I personally like working for companies where employees are number 1. Employees are first, because I personally believe if employees are happy, then they do better work. And that's the long and the short of it. But I've worked for places where customers are first. And so because the customers are first, we listen to their feedback very importantly. We make sure that, very importantly, very primarily, and we make sure that if they ask for something, they get it. And we do everything for the customer. And if the product is first, that means code quality will be amazing. Code will be solid. And so it means a lot of different things, and it depends on what you want. But if everybody answers it differently, which has happened where I ask, okay, what's most important, customers, employees, or the product, if everybody's answering it differently, that's where it's not necessarily a red flag, but it's a yellow flag, because you're suddenly just like, okay, so there's not cohesive messaging. What is different? Why is there disconnect? And you can get to know a company more that way by digging in deeper. Isn't that dependent on the problem statement addressed by the company, though? Maybe. Sometimes. Some companies are very transparent about it. Like Amazon, for example, customer obsession is their number one thing. Customers first, customer. Not all companies have that in their mission or values right away. That's my favorite question to ask, because it's incredibly telling about just the vibe of a company. And then as you ask the person to go into more detail about it, you can really learn a lot. Would you ever work for Amazon again? No. I'm gonna leave it at that. There's a lot of positivity and support going around these days in dev circles. What are you doing to knock your subordinates out of these cycles of positivity to keep them in a state of constant fear and anxiety? That's just my presence. That's it. Even if it's not cohesive messaging, it's how the employees interpret the company vibe, which is important too. Yeah, it's really indicative of a lot of things. As a product designer, my first instinct is to believe customers was the right answer. Yeah, and again, there's no right answer to it. It's really interesting. What's Nullify's answer? Employees first, and I really like that about them. What do you value the most in working for Nullify? My coworkers. They're great. I truly enjoy working with them, and there are some projects that haven't been my favorite, but because I work with such great people, it's worth it. I'd rather work with good people than with the hottest tech in the world. And I do think that Nullify is pretty cool tech anyway, but the people are great. What was the toughest interview question you came across during my job hunt? It's hard to say. There's a few, for example, there was one time where I was just asked to implement a red-black tree, and that's just not my idea of a good time. The ones that have been, it's hard to say which ones have been the most hard. One that I got at a big, large tech company that I did not enjoy, but it was also because the interviewer was very grumpy, which again, smile when you're interviewing someone. They just said, like, implement an error alerting system, and that was it. And I was given the whiteboard marker and go, and so I started just like going for it. Gemberly subscribed, my friend, hello. But anyway, it was such a generic question, so as I was writing stuff, they were kind of just like, well, I guess you could do it that way. And so it was less about the question, more about their attitude towards me. Do I practice my Spanish this week? I spoke Spanish this week, but it wasn't really practice. It was mostly just me laughing about something. What's an example of a project that I didn't like working on? I'm going to avoid that question because there are some things that I am currently doing that are still affecting one of those things. And long story short, I don't like working on projects that are very dependent on other things happening in order to get my work done. That's as vague as I can get. How about working with great people at an evil corp? Do you think working at FANG companies is overrated? That's hard to say. Depends on you. Because if you're not a person who wants to put yourself out there or I don't know, for some people, FANG is great. It's a place where you can either grow a ton or you can rest invest. That's a great phrase, rest invest, where you can just put in the work, get your job done, vest those stock options. And I think that is a really valuable thing. to some people, that is the gold standard. To other people, that sounds terrible. For me, I was not a huge fan of working at a large company like that. Do you think cliche questions, where do you see yourself in 5 years, have more merit to them anymore? I still kind of like them. I don't like being asked them, but I probably should. I think it's important to be able to assess that, so that way, like that's something, for example, my boss Sarah had us, she asked after I joined the company, and she asks everybody, and the team even warned me, they're just like, she's going to ask you this, so be ready. And I was like, okay. But what is good about it is that because I was like, okay, here's generally where I want to be in 5-ish years or so, I'm now being put up for projects and things so that way I can achieve that goal someday. So I think it's good to be able to do that so you can start establishing goals for yourself. And by making those known, then you can be put on a path to success. I interviewed for a job and they told me that if file contains JSX, the file ending should be JSX instead of JS. Are they right? Doesn't matter. That's depends on your transpiler. But yeah, JSX can be used in JS files. How do I prepare for a job interview? Depends on the job. If I know it's going to be algorithmy, I just cram that merge sort and binary search trees and all that stuff back in my brain. But if I know it's more practical, honestly, I don't prepare that much. I kind of tell myself, okay, well, if they're asking me React stuff, for example, I know React. I don't really need to study React. I just need to be ready. I try to go for jobs where I don't have to prepare as much for job interviews. Do I like mechanical keyboards? Very much so. But yeah, for job interviews, it varies for everyone. But also one of the things that I do is I occasionally still interview, even if I don't plan on leaving my current company, just so I can keep up my interviewing skills. And I do recommend people do that, even though interviewing sucks. But it's a skill that you can practice, and it's a separate skill from coding. I think interviewing is a really good skill to have. And so even if you're just being mock interviewed by someone or something, continuing to keep up those skills means that when you're ready to get a job or switch jobs or whatever, you don't have to cram as much. You can kind of just build those skills over time. Oh, I found Hamilton on vinyl. Ooh, cool. Emojis in my cover letter? Yay or nay? Do it. What drew you to Netlify? The people. I had talked with a few different companies, but the team was just a great fit. I loved talking with them, and they were so fun, and every single one of our calls went overtime because we were having such a good time talking. And I admit I was kind of torn because there were a couple places where I was just like, oh, but this would be a really cool opportunity. And as I was talking with someone, they were basically said, you can always go to a company with the coolest, hottest tech, but you will always enjoy a job more if you like the people. And that's how I made my decision. I'm a designer, but really enjoying front-end dev. Nice. How difficult are entry to mid-level HTML and CSS roles? That really depends on the company. I think I wish Jimena was here actually, because she does a lot of really cool code stuff, but she's a designer first. She was here earlier, but it depends on the job. But you can get pretty in depth and basically build the design system for your company if you're good at that. What will you do if you know React and your question is asked about Angular? But you know the job is for React. Does that happen to you? If that does, that sucks. And at that point, if that happened to me, I would just say, well, I'm not an Angular developer, I'm a React developer, and this job is for React, right? Like, I'm happy to try to guess it, but I don't know Angular as well, so I'm sorry. So yeah. Do I do mock interviews as a service? I do with my Patreon. There's a tier where I've done practice interviews with people. I've done them with some friends and stuff, but again, I get asked often enough where I made it a Patreon tier because it was taking, I can't scale myself well. Why go to a company with the coolest, hottest tech when you could go to the company with the coolest, hottest people? Does your knowledge of algorithms and data structures help you on your daily job? Sometimes. There have definitely been times where I've built something where it got deep on state machines, or it got deep on like a stack and things like that, and understanding the best data structure for it was really helpful. It's one of those things where, like, yes, you probably won't run into it every day, but at the point where you do approach that kind of problem, knowing how to do it is a godsend. It is great. If they're asking you questions on a React job interview, run really fast. Yeah, probably. Probably a good route. My voice is tired. I didn't bring my water bottle today. But you know what I did bring? Very salty crackers. So that'll help. Which is the best responsive design methodology, Flexboxes or grids? They're both good for different things. I prefer Flexbox though. Do podcast guests typically get paid? No. What I do, hello, thank you for coming. Typically for podcasts, if it's for a company, like a corporate thing and stuff, I will ask to get paid. But otherwise, I almost never get paid for podcasts, which honestly, I should ask more, shouldn't I? But I don't think they typically pay people to go on podcasts. Do you practice non-technical interview questions, like having an answer memorized to talk about a time? No, I personally don't, but also, full disclosure, I'm a professional technical speaker, and I've spoken at hundreds of events. Not to brag, but I'm pretty good at riffing, and so I don't practice those things because I've had so much practice having to improv a tech talk or improv something because something has gone wrong at an event or something. So the non-technical questions, I'm generally ready for those without having to prep much. I will say, if any of you do ever interview at Amazon, look up their leadership principles, because in their on-site, every single interviewer is in charge of one of the leadership principles. And so you have to figure out, based on what they're asking you, how can you tailor your answer to that leadership principle. And so, again, customer obsession, you might get a question saying, I don't know, name a time where a customer needed something and you had to fix it for them. I don't know, something like that. You have to be ready to answer it specifically about the customer obsession. Anyway, it's one of those things where just study those, but otherwise I don't really practice those as much. Do you have any experience and advice for moving code to a monorepo? I have used Lerna and Yarn workspaces before to move stuff to a monorepo. It was kind of a pain, but I did it. I don't know how to help you though. And I'm sorry. You're back because the content is too good. Hey, do you have any regrets in my career so far? I feel like I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for the ups and downs in my career. I sometimes wish that I stayed longer at certain jobs, and then I also sometimes regret not leaving sooner with certain jobs. But overall, I'm happy where I'm at. I've definitely jumped around at a lot of different companies, and it's not because I want to jump around. I always go in wanting to stay, but something will happen. Like twice, the company was bought and absorbed by their larger company. One time I wanted to move across the country and they couldn't support remote work. One time it was just a very bad culture and I had to get out. One time the pandemic made them lay off all staff. And so there, like, different things have happened with so many different jobs that like life happens. But overall, I'm happy where I'm at. Does having a social media presence give an advantage in the interviews? No. Like, I've been in interviews where people are just like, hey, cool, I follow you on Twitter. I'm like, thanks. And then they're just like, okay, now do merge sort or something. And that doesn't help you. Like, my tweets cannot save me. I think a social media presence can help you get visibility, so that way employers who might be looking on social media for candidates will find you. But it doesn't give you a leg up in the interview process. What's my favorite current keyboard? Honestly, this one I'm typing on is pretty great. I really like this one. It's lovely. Do I think a hot dog is a sandwich? Why? I don't want to get into this now. But also kind of. How do you deal with the existential despair amassed during a job search? Fight through it. Play video games in between. And keep applying. What's it like working with other industry leaders? It must be great to be able to learn and geek out about so much exciting stuff. So like, they're great, believe me. They're awesome people. But also know that they're just human. Like, all of us are just human people. You are, I am. And so if I'm talking to someone high up, like my manager, Sarah Drasner, half the time we're just sending memes to each other. It's not like I do anything with them that I wouldn't do with any other kind of coworker I might have. So it's cool, but like, just remember they're all just people. They're all just humans. Would I go to back to React training if I could? I do miss React training. I loved teaching full time just because I really love helping people learn. I think it's so cool, and learning by teaching is my favorite way of learning, and I love doing that with people. But you know, it's it is what it is. One time the pandemic could have just ended there. You can tweet about how to do a merge sort now, and next time you tell your interviewer, just look back on the tweet. I know, right? Let's see. Are they just human, really? Oh. But you know what I mean. Like, someone mentioned to me at some point that I need to emphasize how approachable I am, because people are worried that if they say the wrong thing to me or something, that because I'm a high up person with a high visibility, professional tech visibility career thingy, that like it could be bad for them career wise. And that made me so sad, because I want to be approachable, and again, I'm just a coder like you. I just happen to tweet a lot, and I think it's an important reminder that the people you talk to are just people. And so, for example, if you're trying to DM Dan Abramov, know that he's just a person, and also thousands of people DM him every single day. So you can't, people get mad at him for not replying to them right away. He can't, and I can't reply to people right away. A lot of people can't, but they're just people. And yeah, I could go into the whole thing about how it's not good to idolize people, but How's that drop alt keyboard? Okay, it's doing great, except the enter key stopped working this morning and I don't know why, so it's fine. I'm currently hosting a Next.js app on Vercel, but now that Netlify supports SSR2, are there any advantages to make the switch? So here, the honest thing is that Next.js is made by Vercel, and so a lot of the features that are in Next.js will be supported by Vercel first. Meanwhile, for other platforms, Netlify, other CDNs, S3, whatever, if you want to use some of those features, there has to be work done to be able to do it. So, caveat, yeah, you can move your app over to Netlify, and with our package and everything, things should generally work just fine. Vercel is great for Next. Netlify is platform agnostic first, and I think that is, or rather the framework agnostic first. And so when I am telling people this might be the better route for you, it's because first of all, they're thinking they don't want to stick with Next or something forever. They might want to switch frameworks at one point. It's easier to do that on a platform that is agnostic and supports all these other things. We also have more support for example, Nullify forms. Nullify forms are amazing. Like, as a non-employee, I can tell you, Nullify forms are amazing. The fact that you can put together a form without having to set up a backend or anything and get the data in a CSV and then run functions on it, spectacular. There's a lot of like extra nice features that Nullify has, purely because Nullify's been around longer and so it has more features. And there's such a generous free tier that again, caveat, I work there, so take things with a grain of salt, but I like the extra features of Nullify, and I like that it's more framework agnostic, so that if I were to suddenly convert to Vue or whatever, I know that it'll work. What's my current favorite meme? It's hard to say. I'll have to think about that. Interesting. I don't think I'd be daunted working with industry leaders. I'd be like a kid in a candy store. I'd be a total sponge though, sapping up all that knowledge. Yeah, no, it's true. What do I think about DevOps? Should DevOps engineers also know how to code? What's my opinion on Kubernetes? DevOps is magic. I'm really glad that I don't have to do it because I'm not good at it. DevOps engineers, I think it's helpful to know how to code because you're dealing with a lot of people and things and stuff that is code related. Kubernetes is also magic. I know that none of it is magic, it's code and math, but it blows my mind and it's magic to me. Is there a danger of web dev becoming automated and killing the need for so many devs in the future? Not for a long time. I can vouch for Nullify forms, save me a ton of time. Yeah, right? Jimena, yay, welcome! Someone was asking earlier about being a designer who does HTML and CSS, so you would be a great person to talk to. Hello. Oh, you're a fan of my clips. Thank you. You have a quick question. What is your approach to learn anything new from scratch? Do I watch tutorials, read blogs, go to the docs, start implementing? I tend to go to the docs first, and then as I get into it a little bit more, and if something isn't clear or whatever, that's when I start going to blogs, and then I tend to go to videos later. There are definitely some docs, though, that recommend videos, and then I watch those, but I tend to not do videos as much as I do written stuff. Whoa, Nullify has forms. I finished making a backend on Heroku. Oh, no! Yeah, no, the forms on Nullify are amazing. Like, I love them. And again, I work there. So I'm trying not to be biased, but it's so nice to not have to set up a backend and to just have it work. Plus, it has like a honeypot thing, so it does automatic spam filtering and stuff for you too. Oh, it's so great. DevOps is just coding. Without coding is just ops. Yeah. Did you ever feel burnt out? Yes. I've burnt out and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. I've hosted web apps on Nullify, Vercel, and Heroku. Do you think it's worth it to learn AWS? Feels overwhelming. That depends on your own personal goals. I personally have no interest in learning more AWS than I currently know, so it's up to you. I'm not feeling like coding when I do CI/CD pipelines or infra as code or configuration as code. Yeah. Do I play any games at the moment? I really like Fortnite. I'm always playing Fortnite. Fall Guys, I still lose all the time. I saw that Civilization 6 had an update, and gosh, I want to play that, but Civ is dangerous because I will get sucked in. That's mostly what I'm playing right now. Famous people can be amazingly approachable. Maybe that's what makes them great to begin with. I once emailed a famous person, capital letters, with a comment about something that they blogged about because I thought they made a mistake and received a great and humbling response. Don't be afraid of famous people. Turned out I wasn't entirely correct either, so I keep the email as a memento to look back at. Nice. Minecraft forgotten. I cut myself off from Minecraft. I love Minecraft, though. That's one of those where when I get into it, I get into it. And I'm currently on a little break because I know how dangerous it is for my productivity. As I mentioned before, I don't currently know how to use any JS frameworks. If I were learning one today, would you still pick up React or would you learn something else? If I were picking one up from the ground up today, I admit I might choose, well, you know what I might do? I might do Preact and Vue. I really like React, and I've been looking a lot more at Preact just personally because I like that it is lighter and not owned by Facebook and does cool things. Vue is nice. I've liked Vue, but I don't really like the Vue template files as much, personally. Have I played Hollow Knight? Yes, but not in ages. Like, I don't remember anything from it. You got me looking at Nullify plans, yeah. Even before I was an employee, I never paid for Nullify. Like, the free plans are really generous. Preact is like a small version of React. Preact. Let me pull it up. You'll see it and you'll be just like, wait a minute, this is React. And I'll say, correct. But they basically want it to be the thinnest possible virtual DOM on top of everything, and it's has the same API as React, but it's smaller. What headphones do I have? Do exclamation point headphones. It is dangerous, yes. What do you suggest to newbie web developers who just graduated from university? Ooh, congrats. I don't know if you have a gig yet. What about Svelte? Best framework ever built in the history of front-end. That is a bold claim, my friend. I haven't used it yet. It's on like my queue of things that I will do someday. But right now it's kind of, I mean, let's be real. React is very popular, and it's going to be for a very long time. If you look at the stats of sites that are deployed, we have a lot of internal stats, and we can see public stats and stuff. Svelte is a sliver. It just isn't as popular. And even Vue, like, it's a chunk. And then there's React. And so in terms of the scale of everything, like, to give another example, like, whatever is best, it'll change in 2 years. Yeah, except we're still kind of in this React thing. Like, why is all front end based around JavaScript? Because JavaScript is the language of the browser. Why do you think? But anyway, there was one time where at React training, there was interest in potentially doing a Vue training. And so we got one of the creators and maintainers of the framework involved. We got it in the Vue newsletter. We got it announced at VueConf. We had this whole thing prepped. I shouldn't say we, because I wasn't a part of it, but React training had this whole thing prepped. For our React workshops, like for example, the ones in San Francisco and the bigger cities, those sell out within a half hour, and then we had a wait list super long. With the Vue one, again, we advertised it pretty heavily, and yet we only had, I think, 12 signups after several weeks. And that's just the popularity of it. People were interested, but it's honestly just not as popular. I think it's powerful. I think it's great. I love the team behind it. I think they're really cool. It's just not as popular yet. And so if you're truly going for a numbers game to get jobs or something, learn React. But if you just want to learn, as long as you learn, you can apply that to other frameworks as well. Why isn't everything built with TypeScript? I mean, that's a lovely framework language thing. Love it. TypeScript is fine. I personally think it just adds a lot of bloat to small projects. I think TypeScript is great for larger projects, but for a lot of small projects, it is just unnecessary. Your TypeScript face got my follow. Thank you, Mike Sai. What's happening out there? Sorry, there's some loud clanging. There's been an explosion in JS frameworks recently. Why do you think that is? Everybody wants to get in on the next wave. I like TypeScript for big projects, but I find it so painful to work with at times. Yeah. Does Nullify do internships? They don't. Not yet, anyway. They apparently tried at one point, and it just wasn't a good experience for the intern because it's hard to do remote first internships. for as small of a team as we are. I know that, for example, this summer, a lot of larger companies, like my sister-in-law interned at Google this summer, and her internship was made fully remote, and it was challenging. And you know how many resources Google has. They're a big deal. And so for us to do an internship, I've tried to ask and be just like, I think it'd be so cool to hire interns, but it's just not supported yet. I think they want us to be a little bit bigger so that way we can have more resources to support them. We're just at 100 people, like 102 people or something. That TypeScript reaction needs to be a meme. I'm gonna pull up my code pen because I said I'd talk about that. Oh, it's on the homepage of CodePen. That's sick. Wow, what a day. But this is the pen that I made last night. Posting a link. I probably spent more time on it than I needed to, but I wanted to like do some funky things I can talk through because people ask me to talk about stuff. Am I going to update my Udemy course? Take my Scrimba course. That's basically the updated version. Do I have strong opinions on Windows? I'm using it right now. I think it's cool. Gets the job done. Any thoughts on ASP.NET Core Blazor? No, because I haven't tried it. I'm gonna share my screen and I'll talk about code. I think it sounds fun. Windows is cool, free spyware and bloatware, ha 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 ha. If you're good about maintaining your machine and stuff, yeah. I'll leave it at that. Hello, welcome. Yeah, I do think Windows is I'm really happy with where Microsoft is going in general. And they've been so dev first on a lot of things lately that I've just been really happy with it. Let's see. I'm looking for something in the code that I can pull up. What chiptune are we listening to? It's called Tiger Tracks. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen now. Let's see. If you got Windows with your cheap machine, you might not have an awesome experience. Yeah, I mean... Welcome, hello. Learning about mechanical keyboards, I'm trying my hands at it. Have you seen any kits that are good for both Mac and Windows? Honestly, most are. Like, this is you can just program your keys however you want. That was a really bad shot of my keyboard. It did not focus on it at all. But like the control, with the control and then this code key and alt, like the code key just turns into command, and so I just have to swap a finger for copying and pasting and stuff. The font is Mona Lisa. That's my favorite movie on Nullify. Ha 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 ha. Windows is made for simple, stupid people? Okay. You better shut up now. That's dumb. You can't say that. That's just not true. Windows, if you want to play games, if you want to do game development, if you want to do more hardcore stuff like that, that's what you have to do, and it's based on preference. I don't like it when people bash OSs or frameworks or different things. Like, I think it's annoying to see that. I use Carabiner nice. use the tool that gets the job done. Sometimes the job is playing games, exactly. And also people have their own preferences on tools. It annoys me when people are just like, React is the best, and Mac is the best, blah blah blah, the best. There's no point. You can do the same thing with everything, it just depends on how you want to do it. Okay, you don't need to go swing the opposite direction, say Mac OS is cancer. None of that, okay? How many keyboards do you own? Many. Okay. Before we get into any more battles of this kind of stuff, here's the little cartridge thing that I made yesterday. I'll zoom in a little so you can see that. But anyway, so I threw some JS in this. I wasn't originally going to use JavaScript on this pen, but I thought it would be good just to kind of show how it all works. So for the HTML, this was kind of fun. It's just a top-level cartridge. The top covers this like rounded rectangle thing and the stripes. The sticker covers this whole thing here, and then the ball is just that. The Pokeball is that, and then the bottom covers this triangle, and then these two shadows right here, and that's what that is. And so for the actual code for this, I originally made it just a red cartridge, and then I added the colors later. And this is where I used a mixin, a SAS mixin for this. And so first of all, on the head and the body, we have with 100%, this is just a normalization thing. And then I had this display flex thing just so that way everything could be centered. And then the background color is just this background thing. I have some variables set for the background shadow, and then I just added colors for stuff in here. And so for the actual cartridge itself, this is the entire code for the cartridge. And so, hold on 1 second. Okay, sorry, the thing was beeping at me. Anyway, so for the cartridge, it's a rectangle and it has a border. I have a variable for the border where it's just like 8 pixels solid and then this black color that's close to black, but not exactly black. And then after doing that border, I made the top left radius a little rounded, and then I added a little box shadow right here so you can see that there's a little shadow right there. And then I have all of these before and afters because I did something funky to get this little dent right here. Because you know how in the Game Boy cartridges there's a little dent? What I did was I made a rectangle that was the same color as the background. And let me actually take this out and you can see something for a second. It was actually like, it looked like this at first. And so you could still see the background color of all of this. And then it had these little diagonal lines here. And so it wasn't quite perfect. And so, oops. And so this was just a way of kind of clearing that up and making a nice shape here. So that way it looked cut out and it looked like one uniform shape, even though it wasn't. The gap is on the top right of the cartridge. Should it be on the left? I don't know if it should be on the left. This is what I chose. Anyway, so that's how the whole outer part of the cartridge is. It's just the background color of the cartridge. It's not even the background color of the cartridge. It's just the shape. Like if I were to take all of this out like this is what it would look like. So this is truly, this is what this code does. It makes this outer shape and the shadow. And then I had this little cartridge theme thing. And cartridge theme is where the magic happens. So cartridge theme breaks it up into 2 parts. First of all, there's cartridge parch, which was right here, and then darken, which, come on, refresh. There it goes. Okay, so with the cartridge theme, this is a mix-in that takes in a base color. And the base color is based on the CSS class. And so the CSS class, I just have it as red, blue, yellow, green, based on blue, yellow, and green with red as the default, and those are the colors I define up here. And then I darken that color, so the base red color and the base green color or whatever is a little bit darker than what the main color is, which is the one on the sticker. And then inside of cartridge parts is a lot of parts. So again, there's the top sticker ball bottom. In that top part, it's a lot. But what this linear gradient is stripes. These stripes are actually going straight across, and they cover the whole thing. If I were to take out these two things so that way you could see, that's actually what the stripe is doing right there. But then I add the before and after. And what the before and after does is this before right here, it makes this like rounded rectangle right here. And then the after cuts off things. So actually let me take out one of them so you can see what I'm talking about. And I take out the before. The stripes go along here, and this after is just this shape right here and filling in the color. And then I have this before. Let me take this one out. What this before does is all it does is has a border that's the same color as the background. And so that covers up those stripes so that way it looks cut off. So that when it's all put together, it looks like the stripes are cut off at a certain rounded shape right there. And so that was my little trick for that. And so that's the top part of this div. The sticker is the next part, and that's this whole thing right here. And so inside the sticker, there's the sticker class, and then there's the Pokeball. I wanted to do it all as one, but the Pokeball was just easier to make a separate div for that. Okay, so I'm gonna do the Pokeball I'll do first because that's easy. Again, if I were to take out this class right here, there would be nothing in the sticker because that's the Pokeball. So what the Pokeball does, I was actually pretty proud of this because I thought it was kind of fun. What I did is I did a linear gradient where the top half was red and the bottom half was white. And so if I were to like take out this before and after stuff right here, and all you would see, all it is just this stripe right here with the linear gradient. And so the gradient goes right up to the 50% and bottom to the 50%. And then once I did that with the before and after, I added just some of these base things. Whenever you style pseudo elements, you have to add the display block and the content none like this. And then I added the positioning because I needed it on both. With this right here, all this is the stripe across. And actually, I think it needs to be fixed. No? That was right. Okay. Sorry, I was just checking something. I think the width should actually be a tiny bit wider. Because I'm curious about this. Because look, you probably don't see what I'm seeing. It probably doesn't matter. Anyway, I might adjust this a little bit later. Anyway, the before, all the before is the stripe across. And then the after is just a little circle. And so it's got the width of and height of 20 pixels, has the background of white, has the border, it's a circle. There you go. So that's how the Pokeball is done. It's basically just circles on top of circles, stripes on top of stripes. Okay. And then for the rest of the sticker, I have it positioned absolute, and so it's in the middle of the cartridge. And then it has the background of the base color that's passed in from the mix-in, and then it has the regular border that we already talked about. But notice I have border left and border right as none, and that's because the border on the sides of this sticker right here, just right there and right there, that's actually coming from the pseudo elements. And so the pseudo elements right here, this is kind of a funky thing. Let me take this out so you can see what I'm talking about. So that's what this looks like without the stuff on the side. Yeah, there is a tiny gap on the left. I'll fix that. I'm not entirely sure why it's doing that. Anyway, so those rectangles that I just put back in with the pseudo elements, I make this display flex and space in between, and so that means the rectangles originally would have been just on the side or stacked. If I were to take out this display flex and justify content space between, then all of a sudden they're stacked like that. And so by keeping that in there, that means because it's flex, they're all on the same level, and then space between pushes them to the edges. And then at that point, it was just making these rectangles that were gray and that fit on the side there. And so that's how those ones worked. And then the final thing is the bottom. And so with the bottom, I needed to make a triangle, and I wanted to make some shadows on the side to show that it was kind of dented in, if you remember the Game Boy cartridges. And so this one was kind of funky. So with the bottom, what I did was to make this triangle right here. Triangles, if you want to make them in CSS, are done with borders. And so all this triangle is just a border top. And so what happens when you have a lot of borders, let me actually throw together a quick code pen to show you. If I were to make a thing and then add a border to it, and I'll say border top is 40 pixels solid red, border right, oh my gosh, I can't type, is 40 pixels solid blue, border bottom is 40 pixels solid green, and then border left, oh my gosh, left is 40 pixels solid yellow, like this, and then I'm gonna have the width be 0, like that. So notice how borders work. These generate triangles. And so, and that's how this works. And if I were to do like height of 0 as well, that's how that works. But if I were to make this like 10 pixels, for example, that's where you start to see the little gap in there, and they're not triangles anymore. And then if I make it 100 pixels, then it just kind of looks like a regular border. And so if you make it 0 like this, you get triangles. And that's how triangles work with CSS. So when we go back to my cartridge here, with my cartridge, all this is a top border. And so we have the border is 18 pixels solid and transparent. So the left, the right, and the bottom are transparent triangles, and the border top is that shaded thing. So so that's all that was. It's just grabbing the top one while the rest are transparent. And so, like, for example, if I made these transparent like this, like that, like that, like that, we suddenly have a triangle. And that's exactly what I did. It's kind of cool, yeah? Okay, so that's how we got the triangle right here on the bottom. And then for the sides, that was just rectangles. And I did a very similar thing where I just made a rectangle with height 100%. I darkened it to that background color, and then I absolutely positioned it. And that's that. But does that mean you're limited to that one shape of triangle? If you're using this method, yes. Otherwise, you might want to use a clip path. And there's a great CSS clip path generator. This one, Clippy. And so you can make funky clip paths and do it this way too. I chose not to, but here I'll paste the link in the chat if you want to do that. But yeah, there's some funky things that you can do with it. Anyway, that is how I made the cartridge in CSS. And and so you might notice it gets the base color. Base color again is passed in from the mix-in. And I defined the variables at the top here. And so it's just cycling through red, yellow, blue, green there. And I could do another color and it would actually work. So actually I'll do an example. I'll do a purple cartridge. Let me get a hex color picker. Let's pick a nice purple and I'll show you how that might work. That looks nice. So I'm gonna copy that. And because I use the base color and just darken everything like that, I'm able to do some fun things. And so I'm going to add another cycle in here, where if it's case purple, and then I'll do some stuff with that. Case purple, we'll do this, turn this to purple, It's gonna break for just a second while I update this. And then I need to add a CSS class here. And purple. And then I'm going to include this with purple. And then in theory, we should be able to see it work. After green, purple. Hey, see that? So that is how that one works. Ooh, time check. Actually, good call. Let me check to make sure I'm not missing a meeting. Because that would not be good. Oh, I do actually have a meeting coming up relatively soon. Can I cycle with keyframes? Yes, I can. I just chose to do JavaScript with this one because I didn't feel like it. Oh, thank you so much for the bits. I appreciate it. What tool did I use for the prototype? I didn't. I did it all in CodePen. Okay, I'm going to take out the purple because I don't like it very much, but that's how that one works. And luckily, it only involves deleting a few lines here and there. Oops. Ah, it is in the cartridge part. So not that, not that, that. Get rid of that one. Cool, saved it. But yeah, you can do it with a CSS keyframe, but if I did, honestly, it was there were some things that I would have had to change and I didn't feel like it. Can I explain based on the main color again? Yeah, so that's actually a Sass thing. CSS darken. There's a darken function where they have like adjust hue. Let me actually paste this because I know you can't see this. Wait, has CodePen always supported HTML, CSS, JS? Yeah, of course. That's what it was built for. It can do frameworks too. CodePen can do a ton of stuff. But anyway, where's darken? It's somewhere in here. Yeah, so you do the color and the amount, and so I did the color and then like 5% and 10% for that. But yeah, CodePen started doing like when the site began, it was HTML, CSS, JavaScript from the very beginning. Yeah, it has a Vue component editor. It also has a Flutter component editor as well. How did I clip the top right, left rectangle? I talked about that one. Let's see, where did it go? The way I did that was with these pseudo elements. And so if I actually take these out, it's just a regular rectangle right there. And so the pseudo elements actually cover it up. And so it's not actually cut, it's covered. And so what I do with these ones is there's a rectangle that's in that upper right hand corner, and it's of this width and height, and it has the border on the sides here. And the border top up here at the top of it and on the side of it are the same color as the background. It's this yellowish background. And then this after right here, make sure that it goes straight to the edge instead of having diagonal lines. Or if I were to take this out, you can see that there are diagonal lines and a little funky background thing that had to be fixed. So anyway, that's how that one works. Do I do D3? I don't do it like a lot, but I've been meaning to do more of it. Are there any other questions? But yeah, the prototyping, this was all done in CodePen. I did base it off of a design I saw on Dribbble. And then I kind of played with it. So it doesn't match it perfectly, but it's based off of this design in Dribbble that I saw. So the colors are a little different, plus I added green, plus the sizes and the borders are similar. But yeah. Can I show some of the Flutter? I haven't used the Flutter thing, but you can look at it on CodePen. And this is just Sass. Oh, yeah, all of this is Sass right here. Have I done GreenSock? I haven't, but I keep meaning to. I literally have a tab open in another window to do that. Do I have a favorite CSS architecture? Not really. I kind of go with the wind. I do it the way I want to. I like just not being bothered by my tools. I most typically use CSS modules and then just try to keep the CSS classes small in those. I want to actually look at the stripe on the Pokeball because it's bugging me. Let's see. Oh wait, it's in the mix-in. Let me just minimize some stuff. Okay, I see where we are. Okay, in here, I want that stripe to be a little wider and positioned to the side a little. I'm gonna do left -2 pixels like that. Perfect, okay. And then I'm gonna do calc 100% plus 4 pixels like that. There, now it stretches perfectly. Okay, that was bugging me. Tailwind? Yeah, I don't use Tailwind that much. It's cool though, I just haven't used it much. Do I do IE compatible CSS as well? No, but you know, oh, thank you Ogog for your subscription. I'm going to tell you a story about Internet Explorer compatibility. So for those who don't know, I'm also going to switch out of this screen. I'm telling you a story about Internet Explorer. When I worked at CodePen, I was working on some cool features that were extra in things. Extra features in the editor and in stuff. And I'm keeping it vague because some of the stuff I built still hasn't gone public yet, but it's going to, so. But anyway, we were just like, let's go through all of the millions of users and traffic and stuff, analyze our traffic, and see what percentage of our users are using Internet Explorer, or using IE 11 or below. How many people are actually using this, so we can determine our use case, because it was going to be a bit of a headache to be compatible. So out of the millions of users, guess how many people use Internet Explorer? I'm gonna pause. Guess how many people used Internet Explorer? You can do percentage, you can do number, up to you. And again, of the millions of people. Okay, are you ready? 12. 12 total people used Internet Explorer. 12. So, as a result, because it was 12 out of millions, we stopped supporting Internet Explorer. 12, not 12%, 12 people. 12 people, 12 individuals. And so, yeah, no, those 12 people might be mad, but I want you to realize I don't write CSS compatible for that but for Internet Explorer because of that stat. That forever said, you know, I don't even care about those old browsers anymore. I don't have to. I'm sure those 12 people were great, but never again. Have you ever seen 12 Angry Men? That was about them. Yeah, and I mean, granted, there are people using like older libraries and stuff, and older browsers, but Internet Explorer, you're done. Thank you again for the time check. I should start turning in, but I'll answer some final questions. What terminal do I use on Windows? Typically PowerShell or just the one in VS Code. Can't wait till Microsoft drops support for IE. I know. I think we'll be seeing that happen. I mean, they cut the team. Like Edge is all the way, and even then they cut the Edge team, and now it's a Chromium based thing. So it's only a matter of time. Yeah, new Windows terminal is pretty cool. I definitely have to update some stuff in it, but I'm pleased with it. Makes me hyped for dynamic imports instead of big bundles. Hey! Yeah, and Git Bash on Windows. Hey, for real. Well, thank you all so much for coming. I had a fun time. This was a good chat. I hope you enjoyed the CSS stuff. I was thinking about doing more of the CSS code pens, either a walkthrough or something from scratch. Let me know if you have a preference, because I'm happy to do either one. Yeah, I had a good time. All right, I am going to raid another channel, so let's go. I hope you all have a lovely day. Maybe I'll stream doing Fall Guys later. We'll see if I'm feeling low self-esteem. Okay, thank you all. Have a good one. Bye.